as they are from a balloon family. They have written a book and they're going to release it this weekend. We welcome pilot and author Chris Elliott and crew member and Chris's wife, Michelle Elliott. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bart.
Glad
to be here.
They
We're
are
happy to be here.
the Balloonatics.
The Balloonatics, that's right.
The
Yes.
Balloonatics.
And yes, I'm sorry, did I say Chris?
Yes, but that's okay. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Yeah, Craig.
It's Craig.
I get
Craig
called-
Elliott, I'm sorry.
Usually I
Yeah.
get called Greg,
I was
but
looking
Chris
at-
is very common too.
Looking at some old notes. So, well, welcome to the show and welcome to Jackson. Have you been to our Hot Air Jubilee before?
I actually attended the first one in 1983.
No kidding.
I did, yep.
Were you here as a pilot?
I was actually here as a crew member for my best friend who was the pilot. He and I learned to fly together, and we started in 1976 after we graduated from high school in Okemos.
Oh my gosh. That sounds like the path to ballooning that everyone follows.
Exactly.
You start as a crew member. Did you get the bug? Is that what happened?
From the ground up, yep. And that's how I met my wife, Michelle. She came out to crew one day, and the rest is history.
That's right.
Yeah, we started as crew members and just loved it, fell in love with it. And the gentleman that we, all the stories, of course, are in the book, but the gentleman that we learned to fly from and started crewing for was Dr. John Hall. He was out of Williamston, Michigan. And after the first year of crewing, Dr. Hall got a second balloon. He had a contract to fly his balloons over the MSU football games. One was a green and white balloon with a WVIC radio station banner on it.
Oh, wow.
And the other second balloon he got in '77, which he needed another pilot for, so he trained Larry and I to fly, was an all-white balloon that said no smoking in big letters because he was a lung specialist.
Oh my gosh, no kidding.
We flew those two balloons over the MSU football games for many years, back in the '70s and early '80s.
I remember that balloon.
Do you?
Michelle, you are not a pilot, but you are one of the unsung heroes of ballooning.
I would say so, yes.
Now, are you a crew member because you're married to a pilot?
I am, yes, that's correct. Yes.
Did you ever get the urge to learn how to be a pilot yourself?
Not so much. I always enjoyed all of the ground activity, getting the balloons up and off and chasing after them, the champagne toast afterwards, and working the office and doing all of those phone calls for people who want to go for a balloon ride. And
The crew.
I really enjoyed that.
Well, the crew job, I think, is a hard work. I was a crew on a couple of flights that went awry, and before cell phones, we were lost.
They couldn't find you.
They couldn't find us after we landed.
Yeah,
So-
that happens occasionally. Cell phones have really made that a lot easier, but yeah, back in the day, I tell some stories in the book about that. We used to have a lost balloon number, because back when the phone was on the wall, if the crew lost us, the pilot would have to walk to the nearest house, ask to use their phone, call the lost balloon number that either my mother or somebody was designated to monitor, tell them where we'd landed, then the crew would have to go find a pay phone or somehow find a phone and call and get the directions, and then use your map, you know, the real road
The
map.
atlas, yeah.
Again, the
Find
map.
out
Well, yeah.
how to find us.
Remember maps? So you've written a book. You've taken how many years ballooning? 50 years?
43 years, actually.
Wow.
I started in '76 and I retired from flying in 2019.
So you stopped flying. I thought you never stopped.
Yeah, it's funny. I just had the same 43 years. I guess I'd had enough. You know, over 2,600 flights, and I just started to get a feeling that I had 30 years ago when I quit riding motorcycles. I just felt it was time to stop. You know, and I'm surprised I don't miss it. I thought I would, but it was fantastic. I wouldn't change anything for the world.
Well, I know why you don't miss it, because you did this as a profession. So you do, like any other job, you get to the end of the road, you retire.
That's true. I think if I would have done it just as a hobby, like most people do, 99% of the people, it's just a hobby, I would still be doing it. That's a good point.
I was looking at some of the balloons that you've piloted over the years, and you've been able to get some of those special shapes gigs, including Tony the Tiger.
Tony was a lot of fun to fly. Whenever you landed Tony, you'd have 100 kids show up, so you didn't have to work very hard to pack them up. You just put them all to work.
Now, flying a special shape, do you have to have special training, or is a balloon?
Well, a balloon's pretty much a balloon. They all operate the same way, but the special shapes are definitely harder to fly in that the appendages and things tend to create a sail. So they're more difficult to inflate, a lot more work to pack it up, and they're more difficult to land because they don't go up and down as fast or as simply as a regular shaped balloon does. But if you get into a windy situation with a special shape, you need a big field to land it in. So they definitely are harder to fly, but there isn't a special license for that, no.
We were talking before the show about the feeling of not being able to control the balloon, because even as a pilot, like a passenger, you can't control anything. But even the pilot, you can only go up and down, right?
That's correct. The only control we have over the balloon is up and down, but however, there are usually lots of different wind directions at different altitudes. And that's what the pilots do at these competition events, is they use the different wind directions at different altitudes to steer, we call it steering, to steer the balloon. By going up, you can go this way, come down, you can go this way, and you work that where you go to where you try to fly the balloon to the target.
Are you ever afraid, a lot of people with the fear of heights and not being able to control it, and especially Michelle, with your husband up, thousands and thousands of times, does it make you nervous?
It doesn't really. I became used to it after all those years, but that's my loved one. It's, I want him to come back every time. And my mom always kidded with me that I shouldn't chase boys, but I had to follow Craig because otherwise he wouldn't come back again. But yeah, I have a lot of confidence in the commercial pilots, and it's a super safe way to see a really beautiful sight.
In the blurbs, you're promising some stories about unexpected mishaps. Can you share when something didn't go quite right?
Well, things can always go wrong, and although, like Michelle said, it's extremely safe. Ballooning is definitely safer than driving down the highway. And I used to prove that to people back in the day when we had our own balloon business, and people would call wanting a ride, and they'd say, well, I'm a little worried. I'd say, well, it costs less to insure my balloon than it costs to insure my van that follows it. That was true back in the 80s and 90s anyways. I believe it still is. But so it's very, very safe. However, things can go awry, and I have written some stories about that a couple of times where you just can't seem to find a landing spot, and you have to take what you get and say thank you. And a very interesting story about the Cranbrook Observatory Tower that jumped in front of us during a flight when we were trying to land next to it, and we bounced off the roof of the tower there. So there are some interesting stories in the book.
But you remain unscathed.
No, never had an instance where anyone was injured that required anything besides a Band-Aid or something. Occasionally we had rough landings where a few bruises and bumps and bruises and that. One time I hit so hard that I hit the upright with my face, and I was wearing glasses at the time. My eyes have actually gotten better with age, which my eye doctor can't believe. But I broke my glasses and cut my eye a little bit. But that was the worst injury I ever had.
Oh, good. We've got all those stories and more that are available in this book. And you're going to have a booth this weekend at the Hot Air Jubilee. Tell us about all the things that you'll be offering as Balloonatics.
Well, of course, we'll be selling the book, and these are advanced copies. It's coming out on Amazon. Pre-orders will start on Amazon actually Thursday, the 17th. And then it's going to be published through Amazon, and they'll start to sell the books and ship them in November. So we have the Balloonatics book, which is a very unique book, and we have these shirts that we have on. We have branded merchandise, great merch, the Balloonatics merch. The Michigan balloon pin is one that we'll have for sale. This is a balloon that we used to fly. We used to own Michigan Balloon Corporation in Holly, Michigan. And this is a really unique pin with the state of Michigan on one side and the robin and the flowering apple tree on the other side. That's a real unique balloon we used to fly, and we really, there it is there.
Yeah, well, I think at the Hot Air Jubilee, we have a lot of people that collect the pins. There's typically a different pin every year, and plus there's trading. That's something pilots do, trade their pins.
Oh, yes.
We'll also have branded mugs, which I want to give to you as a gift for having us on.
Awesome.
And there's a couple pins in there for you as well.
Well, thanks so much. So you ended up getting the bug, becoming a balloon pilot, and making this your profession. What were you going to be had you not been a crew member that very first flight?
Very interesting question and story is in the book as well. I actually I went to school at Lansing Community College, which all my buddies that went to MSU called it Last Chance College, but it's actually a wonderful college, Lansing Community College, and I studied architecture, and I got an associate's degree in architecture. Then this was back in the late 70s, and then they came out with a solar technology degree, believe it or not. Back in 1980, Lansing Community College offered a solar technology degree. Now back then, solar technology was simply hot water heat and designing the buildings properly with super insulation, designing the buildings with south-facing windows to capture the sun and passively heat the buildings. So that's what I had planned on doing. I got my builder's license and started a company called Elliott and Son, S-U-N, Builders. Unfortunately, it was 1983. A terrible recession was going on, and the building trades was not a good trade to get into at the time. So I was really struggling with that. And my buddy Larry Knight, who is an essential part of the book, he knocked on my door one day, and I was wondering how I was going to get through the winter that was coming up, because my company was floundering and I really had some financial stress. And Larry knocked on the door one day, and didn't have cell phones back then, so he just showed up and knocked on the door.
Used a map to get to your house too, probably.
Yeah, he used a map to get there. So he knocked on my door one day. I had a little house in Lansing that I'd bought when I was 20 years old, and he knocked on the door and said, "Pack your bags, dude, we're going on the road." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, you've been hired, as have I, to fly the Buick Olympic balloon by Captain Fogg, who was the first world champion, who in Flint, Michigan. We met him back when we first started flying. So anyways, Larry said, "I didn't tell you this, but you were hired," because I told Captain, he hired me, and I told him I wanted you to go with me. So we took off on the road the next day on the Buick Olympic hot air balloon tour.
And you did. You studied the sun at LCC, and it turns out the sun's a very big part of ballooning.
Yeah,
That's true.
that's absolutely true.
You've been all over the country, Battle Creek, Albuquerque, everywhere there's hot air balloons. So what do you like about Jackson? Tell us how the Jackson Hot Air Jubilee ranks with everything else and all the other places you've been and seen.
Well, truthfully, I haven't been back to the Jackson. I can't believe this, but I went to the first one in 1983, and I never came back, and not for any reason except I always had other things going on, and we never actually came back to the Jackson Hot Air Jubilee. So I'm very happy to be here now. We just always had other things going on. I went to so many different events over the years, and unfortunately, since '83, Jackson was not one of them. But it's one of the longest running events going in the country, so that's a lot to be said there.
Yeah, so I'll ask you next week.
How it was.
Yeah, how was it? Well, we're hopeful for the weather, and this I think confounds a lot of people with the flights and the weather. Looking at the weekend, can you predict how we'll do?
I don't like to look at the weather more than a day ahead of time, because in Michigan, no.
Yeah.
No, I looked at it the other day, and I commented to Michelle on the way here. I said, "Yeah, they're saying it might rain, but it's way too early to tell."
Well, yeah, weather changes. It's on a dime.
All we can do is pray for good weather, and hopefully the balloons will fly.
Well, we'll pray for good weather, and we hope to see you stop by and see the Balloonatics. They'll be at Elliott Park this weekend with their books and their merch, and you'll be one of the first to get the book, because it's not even out yet.
That's right.
Thanks for coming in today.
Well, thank you, Bart. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you both. They are the Balloonatics veteran hot air balloon pilot, Craig Elliott, and crew member, Michelle Elliott.